throughout the United States and Canada. And like I said, I just kept getting called upon, and I soon then realized, too, that not many people at the time were researching it. Now more and more people are, which is fantastic. But it was just when you keep getting called to help, I'm just someone who feels the need to respond to that. And that just, I turned into from being an actress and filmmaker working on this to becoming an advocate, and people calling on me as an expert on it. And I don't know if I'm an expert or anything, but I certainly know that I do have answers that have been provided to me, though, from the thousands of people that I've worked with, whether, like I said, students or teachers, principals, counselors, psychologists, what have you. So that's just kind of what made me an advocate on this subject. And every time I hear about another kid killing themselves on the news, it deeply hurts me. And I'm just even more compelled and energized to get the word out to more schools and to more parents, and to show there is help out there and there are solutions, many of what we've talked about here in this interview.
Yeah, you're definitely very compassionate, and that's wonderful what you're doing. And I just hope that more come on to the bandwagon and help out as well with along with you. I was curious. I imagine there are some children who are bullied that don't really think of committing suicide because of it. Would you say that there are different degrees of bullying?
Absolutely. Like in Dawn Marie's case, where it came to, we're going to kill you. And like I said, that girl nearby had been killed. So definitely that went to a far-reaching degree. And so definitely it builds up. And in this situation, Dawn Marie went to her school counselor, from what I was told, about 3 times about the situation as it kept progressing and getting more serious. And according to the family and the best friend and all those who I've spoken to, just obviously more wasn't done. The appropriate things perhaps weren't done. I'm not going to assign blame or liability, but from talking to everyone, Dawn Marie went to counselors and there was no relief from it. So it definitely does start small, and then it just really snowballs into a huge thing. And if it's not caught in time, then that's when we get these tragic results. Another girl in Canada, Amanda Todd, killed herself last year, and there was a boy here in California several months ago, a boy in New Mexico just within the past month. And those are just some of the ones that are publicized and talked about. You know, we haven't even uncovered the surface of those, perhaps not in the daily news or something. So it definitely needs to be addressed at the onset. And many kids that are bullied, they don't want to tell their parents that they're being bullied because they feel that, that they must have done something wrong. They're saying to themselves, well, gee, I must have done something. I must have said something, or I must not be good enough that I'm getting bullied. Another thing that kids have told me throughout the U.S. and Canada is they've said sometimes when they report the bullying to, like, their mom or dad, that their parent will say to them, really, you're being bullied? Oh, well, what did you do to have them bully you?
Oh, my gosh.
Right. And so right there, I mean, I wouldn't want to be that kid. How do you even respond to that? And again, just, many parents, do have to work 2 jobs or more, and they might be like, well, what'd you do? What happened? And they just might not look at it as seriously until it's too late. And that's a factor in this, too, that the kids then feel that they have no one to go to because they keep thinking there's something wrong with them. And
right,
like in this instance with Dawn Marie, one of the girls that was convicted, on the stand in front of the judge. One of the questions the prosecutor asked was, why did you not like Dawn Marie? Why did you hate her so much and threaten her? And the bully said something to the effect of, well, I didn't like how she smiled. She smiled too much. She was too happy.
Oh, my gosh.
So, yeah, it just...
Wow.
Right. And because there's also this misperception that kids that are bullied must be mentally deficient or something, and that is just could not be farther from the truth. Kids who are bullied are usually more friendly, empathetic. Some can be outstanding leaders in their school. But when you get that pack against you, I mean, just think if you went home and you turn on your email, you open your inbox, and you have all these messages waiting that say, you're not worth anything, you should just kill yourself. We all hate you. All this other things, profanity, or, we're going to kill you unless you kill yourself. These are all real things that, have happened thousands of times that kids are saying to other kids. I wouldn't want to open my inbox and find that, right? I don't want text messages that say that, and who does? So that's the thing. It just, and with, like we said, social media and technology, in addition to there's just so many other things and events at school, there's no escape for kids. And some kids have told me that they feel like school is a prison sentence and that they're in prison. And when you look at it, it's kind of true. Like, you're assigned to get on this bus and it's going to transport you to this facility, and you're locked in there all day as long as they say, and you are forced to be with these other people, some of whom you may not like, some of whom may be threatening you every day, insulting you every day. And you have a term, like, this is your 4-year sentence, in high school or what have you. And, so to be serious, many of these kids say it feels like I'm going to prison every day, that I'm being forced to endure this. And so, like, one mom in Bullies and Friends, she talked about the fact that she had to pull her son out of school and homeschool him because eventually, she went to the school repeatedly. She talked to the principal. She talked to the counselors, and these group of boys kept bullying, torturing, harassing her son. And she found a notebook in his bedroom where he wrote down the entire page, I just want to die. I just want to die. I just want to die.
Oh,
and
gosh.
He had stopped eating. He was losing weight. But when she found that notebook, that was it. And talked to her son, and she pulled her son out of school the next day. And as she says in the documentary, that the principal never even called to say, how can we help you? What can we do? Instead, they just told her on the phone, well, good luck. That's what she said, that they said just good luck to her. And, obviously that's just one school. And like I said, there are many great schools. I've spoken at great schools, great administrators, fantastic teachers. But unfortunately, not all schools are as great as those schools.
Yeah, I mean, just with my youngest son alone, who I shared the story with you about, is a special needs child and has been bullied somewhat in middle school, but once he hit high school, it was just all-out bullying. And we didn't know initially when he started school that that's what he was going through. And it happened more in sophomore year than it did in freshman year for some reason. Instead of them taking care of the problem, and we found out only because he started cutting school. And eventually one of the social workers got him to talk. And that's when we found out what was going on. But instead of taking care of it, the bullies, my son is now in a school that's on lockdown the whole time the school is going on, from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, whatever it is. And it's more a school for the kids that act out. So he's now in this school because that's the only way they could keep him in there, and he felt safer being there because nobody was bullying him there. But that's not an answer to the problem.
Absolutely not. That's horrible.
It is horrible. It is horrible. And it's just, I don't even know what to do for him other than pull him out of school and homeschool him, which he does not want to do. He doesn't mind being at this other school. Or put him into possibly like maybe a Catholic school where my other kids went, but at that time we had money, but now we don't have money to do that. But who's to say it's not going to happen at a Catholic school? Catholic school doesn't mean kids are all good kids, because they're not.
Right.
So,
and I was just, look, I was just going to say, absolutely. Bullying happens everywhere, and bullying happens in every school every day. And it affects every kid, whether they're a bystander watching what's going on and don't speak up, whether they're someone who steps in, as we call them, an upstander and steps into it, or the person being targeted or the bully. But it definitely is going on every day. And like you said with your son, and like we've talked before this interview, that, yes, clearly the school needs to provide a solution, not just sending him to that other school that's really not appropriate for him to be at, other than, well, if he feels safe there and can interact with others safely, that's great. But he's definitely, again, being punished for being bullied. And
and he's now, he has low self-esteem as it is with being special needs. And now he's making friends with the kids that are in that school, and those kids are in that school because they're problem children. So what is he doing? He's hooking up with kids that are problem children, that are acting out and doing things that are wrong, and because he wants to fit in and have friends, he has no choice but to hook up with them. So, that's causing another issue in itself.
Absolutely. And again, you as a parent, and all parents going through this, of which there are far too many, it's unacceptable. And like I said, more people just need to step forward and call their local congressperson, senator, what have you, and like things need to be implemented. The federal government has turned it over to the states, and that's fine. I'm not going to get into federal versus state, things, but whatever it is, more needs to be done. Different things, different legislation needs to be enacted, and more programs need to be put into place, and more solutions need to be created, and policies set up in every school to make it more uniform in that nature, that it's addressed appropriately, that because so many schools are handling it like so vastly different. It's confusing and baffling to parents, and the kids are clearly not getting the right message from this, right? They're looking at it as, well, if the adults can't figure this out, how am I supposed to figure this out? And every day I'm going in and being harassed and threatened. We don't tolerate harassment in the workplace, yet as a society we're accepting harassment in our schools with our children.
Right.
And we just can't have that. We just simply cannot have that.
I was actually curious, from all this talk about the schools that just kind of brush it aside and don't. I understand that there's stuff that need to be implemented that possibly there's no funds for, but why are they not addressing it in the way of talking to the students that are bullying and trying to basically lay down the law? There are rules in school. I know I had rules when I went to school. Why aren't they implementing just rules in general, saying, this is not right. You should not treat other children this way. Your fellow students. I'm kind of baffled about that. It's kind of weird.
Right. I mean, exactly. It is weird. Like, right? I mean, it's almost like at some point you feel like just kind of almost laughing about it, but it is for the fact that it's so serious. But it is weird, and some of it has to do with the litigious nature of our society. Some schools say our hands are tied if we